What's up, everybody? SpiderriaN here, and welcome to another anime review. This time, I'm starting it at 3 in the morning instead of 2 in the morning, so... I don't know, I guess I really just dislike sleep or something. I don't know what's wrong with me, but this quarantine thing really has my sleep schedule all over the place. But anyway, today, or this morning I guess, we're going to be talking about Fire Force. An anime that left me with mixed feelings towards it. I don't quite like it, but I don't quite dislike it. I'm kind of in this odd middle ground. And I wanted to talk about it because Fire Force, I've been on an anime binge lately, as you can tell by all my other rambling anime reviews I've made. And Fire Force was one of those animes that I finally got around to watching because I remember when Fire Force first came out, it was a while ago, not that long ago, but when Fire Force first came out, I just remember like the internet erupting with unanimous praise for it, and a bunch of AMVs were made and whatnot, and everyone in the comments was like, "Oh my God, Fire Force, yay!" And I didn't really get it because I never watched Fire Force, and so I finally decided to do it. Finally decided to give it a watch, and I don't know, maybe it was a little overhyped. Maybe I'm just growing old and senile. Or not senile, old and crotchety. But the show just, I don't know, it didn't really connect with me. I didn't really get the hype. But I'm going to explain why. And the show does do a lot of things really well. Like, this isn't a bad show. It may just not be my taste. However, I do like Black Clover a lot, which is, by all means, like this show. Like Black Clover and Fire Force are very similar in terms of both being, shown in animes about, well, I guess that's really about this class. That's really about as direct as the similarities get, at least off the top of my head. But most shonen animes do play it very similarly, so I'm not too far off, I don't say. But I really like Black Clover. So then why don't I really like Fire Force? When Fire Force, by all means, looks a hell of a lot better than Black Clover does, and I don't know. I mean, the shows are fundamentally, like, they're both shonens, but they are different, and they have very different characters. And I think when it comes down to it, I think the characters are kind of what I have the problem. Like, that's kind of where my problem with the show comes in. But I'll explain all that. First, we're going to do the arbitrary hard facts part, where I just talk about a little bit about the background of the show and, who made it and all that jazz. So, Fire Force, it is an anime adaptation of a manga series of the same name, written and illustrated by Atsushi Ukubo? Atsushi Ukubo? I believe that's how you pronounce it. Again, I'm an American, so Japanese pronunciations are not my forte. I'm working on it, though. I'm trying to get better at it. But, so, that's the creator of the show. And this guy's other very notable work is Soul Eater, another show and manga that I have not read or watched. So, I think one of the reasons why, and this is just a personal opinion, I don't have any evidence to back this up, but this is just kind of something I think I've kind of seen through people talking about Fire Force, talking about it very positively, is I think one of the reasons why the show is so popular is due to the fact that it's the creator of Soul Eater. And Soul Eater is one of those shows that got a lot of people into anime or manga, and at least from my kind of perspective, Soul Eater is one of those shows that, sorry, I keep adjusting my mic here. Soul Eater seems like one of those shows that you're just not really allowed to talk shit about it. Like, that's kind of the vibe I get from Soul Eater. It's like, if you talk shit about Soul Eater, you're the one who's wrong, and you better be prepared to pay the consequences for voicing your opinions. Now, again, I've never read or watched Soul Eater, so I don't know how true that statement is. I don't know how good Soul Eater is. I mean, good is very arbitrary. It's definite. One person's definition of good could be vastly different than another person's definition of good, so... But from what I can kind of tell, Soul Eater is a very beloved show. Kind of like Full Metal Alchemist and whatnot. A very beloved show that, if you talk shit about it, you better have some hard facts and evidence to back it up, otherwise people are going to be mad. And even then, people are still going to be mad. And I think that's one of the reasons why Fire Force is so popular, why so many people love it, is because it's the same creator. So in a way, there's kind of like, I guess, a loyalty to the creator, or like you're like, I mean, I don't really know exactly how to describe it, but people are already kind of familiar with his work, and thereby they really like Fire Force. Because Fire Force kind of gives me off the vibes of like, it's not really a show you're supposed to talk shit about. It's supposed to be a show that you just, either you really love it and you talk about it, or you don't love it and you don't talk about it. You just keep it yourself. But that's why I don't dislike Fire Force. Like I said, my opinion on it is just kind of mixed, and I want to go into more detail about that. But I wanted to talk about that little tidbit. So, yeah, so that's the creator of Fire Force. And basically, the general premise of the show is that this great disaster happened a long time ago, and basically the world burned and people started spontaneously combusting and turning into these fire demon things called infernals. And only a small portion of Tokyo was spared. And in this in this part of the world, a church was formed called the Holy Soul Church and the Holy Soul Temple. And basically, eventually people came around who were able to manipulate flame, and they were called pyrokinetics. I believe is what they were. I believe is what they're called. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure they're pyrokinetic. Pyrokinesis. Aha! I corrected myself. Pyrokinesis. Pyrokinetics. You know, people who can control fire. And in the show, there's two types. There's second generation and third generation. Second generation are able to manipulate flames that already exist. They cannot produce flames of their own on their own. They need a starter, like, you know, like a cigarette and some gasoline to get the fire going, and then they can manipulate it. And then there's third generation who are able to create the flames themselves. And the third generations are very powerful. In the most part. And the show follows the good old protagonist, Shinra Kusakabe? Shinra Kusakabe? And basically, he has his ability is that he has like fire feet, and it allows him to move at insanely fast speeds, as well as greatly increase the power of his kicks, and he can basically fly. It's a pretty cool ability, and it's called the Devil's Footprints, and there's reasons for why it's called that. I'll go into detail later, and probably a bit of like a minor spoiler section. When I talk about a character's backstory, I'll throw up a spoiler warning and then like a time to skip to if you don't want to be spoiled. But I feel like most people who are going to be watching this video are probably coming to just validate their opinion, to have their opinions on Fire Force validated, so they most likely already know everything there is. But I'll still, better safe than sorry. So I'll still throw up a spoiler warning because I'm a nice guy. But yeah, so Shinra, he's a third he's a third generation pyrokinetic, and he joins the Fire Force Company 8, a ragtag company full of a bunch of misfits who are all lovable in their own ways. And basically, they go out and kill infernals and keep Tokyo safe. But of course, there's more to it than that. Company 8 has an ulterior motive for why they were formed, besides just fighting infernals. But I won't go into detail about that unless I talk about spoilers, which I think for the most part I'll be avoiding spoilers about the plot. It'll mainly be spoilers about characters' backstories that I talk about, because the main thing I want to talk about in this video are the characters, because that is where my main grievances with the show are. So, onto the technical aspect. Now, from a technical aspect, this show is undeniably one of the most gorgeous animes I've ever seen. There is just no way you can say Fire Force looks bad, because it doesn't. Fire Force looks absolutely amazing. The soundtrack's really good. The animation is top-notch. The fight scenes, regardless of if you like or dislike what's going on in the fight scene, or how the characters got to this fight scene, it is still amazing. Like, it is still just absolutely beautiful and very lovely to watch. The show is probably the best anime I've ever seen. Like, anime series that I've seen. Like, anime movies always usually take the cake for looking the best, but that's just because it's a single movie. In terms of, like, ongoing anime series, yeah, this show is probably the most gorgeous. Because, like, even if you take a show like Attack on Titan, which, you know, generally looks pretty well, one of the reasons why Attack on Titan looks well is because of its art style. Its art style, with kind of like the thick lines around the characters, kind of helps distract in a way from some of the more, I don't want to say sloppy animating, but just kind of, I guess, like rushed animation. Because there are some scenes in Attack on Titan and some of the more quiet episodes where you're kind of like, oh, that looks a little bad. This show does, I mean, I still love Attack on Titan, don't get me wrong. I'll talk about Attack on Titan one of these days. But this show does not have that at all. There is not a single bit in this show that I thought looked even slightly bad. Everything looked above average to extraordinary. This show is gorgeous. The fight scenes are easily the best part in terms of just animation prowess, just seeing how beautiful the show is. It's just, this is a gorgeous show. No questions asked. Absolutely gorgeous. So if anyone ever tells you Fire Force looks bad, they have zero clue what they're talking about. That is the one point I will defend Fire Force on, even though it's not my favorite show that I've ever seen. One point I will always defend it on is that the show looks great. Because it does. So, yeah, animation-wise, the show is amazing. Soundtrack-wise, pretty dang good. I like the first opening more than the second one, but that's primarily just because the second opening's not my type of music with like the heavy metal screamo. But the openings both looked really pretty, and like I said, I like the first opening song a lot. I didn't skip it too often. But, yeah. The show looks great. The soundtrack is good. Again, I'm a sub, not dub guy, so the voice acting sounds perfectly fine to my American ears. So, I can't really tell. I don't even know if the show has a dub or not, because I never watch them, so I don't really look into that kind of stuff. I don't really do a ton of research before these videos, so you're really just getting like my pure, raw, unedited, and probably slightly unorthodox thoughts on these animes, which I think helps keep it real and helps keep it a little bit different than every other anime review, so we're going with it. But yeah, so the show looks great. Absolutely great. Even the backgrounds, like all the backgrounds look really gorgeous and pretty well detailed. Yeah, soundtrack's good. Like, from a technical standpoint, this anime is above average in pretty much every regard. It's a really solid show all around from a technical aspect. And the world, I'm really fascinated by the world of Fire Force. Because, like, this great disaster came out of nowhere. There's no one knows why it happened. No one knows what caused it. And it seemingly destroyed, like, all of civilization and the outside world. But it kind of makes you wonder, like, is there actually life outside of Tokyo? Is there, like, some pockets of, like, America still kicking? Maybe Canada? You know, it's pretty cold up in Canada. I don't think fire would do too well up in Canada. You know, it just kind of makes you think, you know, like, is Tokyo really the last place in the world? Or are there other humans who don't know about the existence of these other places? So, you never know. There's a lot of questions still left to be asked. Still left to be asked and answered. So I'm looking forward. The world of Fire Force is very interesting. I am very interested in seeing how that progresses. But I suppose, excuse me, we've dilly-dallied long enough. It is time to talk about the characters, which is the reason why this show left me with a very mixed feeling. So, allow me to explain. When I watch a show, especially anime, I feel like anime is one of those forms of media that is very, very character-driven. There are very few animes out there where the characters do not matter. And even if it's a show designed around the characters being insignificant in the grand scheme of the world, like your anime protagonist isn't the chosen one to save the day, or it isn't someone who works their way up to become a hero, regardless, like, anime is a series that's very, is just a genre of media that I just think is very character driven, and I think having really good, strong characters is insanely important for an anime keeping its longevity and for an anime, you know, keeping its popularity and just remaining good. That's one of the reasons why I like Black Clover so much, because Black Clover is by no means a beautiful show. Like, it has some pretty average animation because it's a weekly show, although due to the recent situation of the world, which I will not talk about, but you guys all know what's going on, as of this recording at least, it has been delayed, so Black Clover is not coming out weekly anymore. But like, Black Clover is by no means a beautiful show. The in-show soundtrack isn't anything amazing. The opening and endings are beautiful, like great song choices always. But like Black Clover from like technical standpoint is very average. But I think Black Clover has very strong characters. Not all of them. Not all of them. There's a lot of bad characters. But I think overall there's a lot of really strong, solid characters in Black Clover, which kind of helps you get past some of the show's other shortcomings. So, characters are, at least in my opinion, are very important for keeping a show, for helping people get attached to the world and just enjoying the show. You know, like the characters are the characters are the jumping off point for the viewer to get engrossed in the world that's being presented in front of them. And that goes for any work of media. Books, comics, manga, movies, TV shows. That goes for video games. That goes for every media. Like, if you need some strong... If your world is going to be built through people and around people, you need to have some strong characters to help keep that world together. So, that little side tangent kind of leading into this is that Fire Force's characters are where the show kind of falls apart for me. Because I like some of the characters, and other characters I just don't really see their point. And I'll talk about the characters I like first. You know, let's get all the positives, and then we'll save the negatives for later, and then I'll try to loop it back to positives, because I don't want to get flamed by any angry Fire Force fans. Maybe a pun was intended there. But, you know, I want to be fair to the show. This is not supposed to be a video of me just shitting on the show, because it's not. I don't hate the show. I just kind of got neutral feelings towards it, and it's primarily because of the characters. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the characters I do actually really like. So, number 1, Obi, Captain Obi, the leader of the Company 8. He's not a super deep character with a ton of lore and motivation behind him. Not yet, at least, because it is an ongoing series. The manga's still going. Season 2 is coming out in like a month and a half as of this recording. So, like, there's still a lot of character development that could be had and character building. But Obi's just like a good guy. He's just like a cool, good guy who's, he's like the big brother to everyone. Kind of like the father figure, but a little more relatable. So more like a big brother, like a cool older brother, who who tells you not to smoke, but like, doesn't get mad at you if you do. Like, he's that kind of dude. Like, he's that kind of chill big bro, and I just really like him. Also, another thing about the companies is that not everyone in the Fire Force companies has the pyrokinesis powers. There's actually a few unpowered members in Company 8 and other companies. Obi is one of them. He was just a normal firefighter who another Fire Force dude is kind of being a dick, and he was like, fine, I'm going to become a Fire Force member myself, even though I don't got any powers. And then the nun, Iris, is also unpowered. She does not have any special abilities, and I'll talk about her later. She doesn't fall into the characters I like category, unfortunately. But I'll explain why. Don't worry. I'll explain why. Like I said, I don't want this to just be a random, rambling hate fest on Fire Force, because it's not. That's not my intention here. But anyway, Obi. I really like Obi. I think he's he's not like a really deep character, but he's just enjoyable to watch, and he's just kind of cool. He's just kind of cool. Another character I really like is Maki. She is a second-gen pyrokinetic who is able to, she's able just to manipulate flame, like most pyrokinetics. But she's also able to create, these two little, she's able to create, these two little fire dudes, fire orbs, called, Sputter and Flare, I believe is their name. And they're really cute. They're really cute, and she finds a way to, later on, she finds a way to use them in a super badass way in the show. But she's able to, her main thing is that she's able to, like, redirect flame. She can't necessarily, like, harness it herself, but she's able to, like, redirect it and, like, snuff it out in, like, small quantities. Which is, like, a pretty useful ability if you're going to be, like, a firefighter type character, you know what I mean? So, I really like Maki. She has, like, a soft, like, she's a pretty tough lady, and she's pretty badass. But she does have, like, a soft side where she wants someone to come in. She wants a prince to come in and sweep her off her feet. Which none of the men in the Fire Force, Company 8 unit are, unfortunately, but she keeps her hopes up. So I like her. She's not a very deep character, but she's enjoyable. And I think we're kind of seeing a trend here of none of the characters in the show are really deep. Not yet. None that I've named yet. One of the characters I do like, I think she's kind of deep, kind of not. I'll explain what I mean, but you know, I like Maki. I think Maki is a really nice character. I guess let's just transition into the next character I like, who I do think is kind of deep. Hibana. I really like Hibana. She's an interesting character. And the reason why she's interesting is because of her backstory. That's what I like about her. So, minor spoiler warning. I'll throw up a warning. I'll throw up a timestamp that you can fast forward to skip the spoilers about her backstory. Because I'm not going to be super in-depth about it, but I do think it's worth going into because she's one of those characters that I like, but is also a little on the mixed side too. Mainly just because of kind of what happens to her, I guess. I'll explain what I mean. So, spoiler warning about Hibana's backstory. But essentially, Hibana, something happened to her parents when she was young. And when young girls, it seems to be mainly girls, when their parents are killed, and I think I don't know if it has to be like a fire-related incident, but usually most of the deaths in this world are fire-related. So, her parents get killed or just die somehow, and she gets sent to basically live in this church and become a nun, become like a holy soul temple nun. And she's not really into it, you know. She doesn't really want to, but she just kind of doesn't have anything else going on, so she's like, fine, I can do it. And she's a third generation pyrokinetic, so she is able to create like flame flowers and stuff that can alter the environment, that can alter the like atmosphere of what the petals encompass. She can basically create like an area of effect where she can kind of manipulate the heat to do what she wants. And it's really pretty. You know, everything about this show is pretty, so her powers are really pretty. But basically, one day, so she's just doing her nun thing, and basically, and not really into it, but just doing it because, you know, why not? And then one day, all of the nuns, with the exception of Hibana and Iris, they do have a backstory together. They both were little nuns in the same church, orphanage thing. For whatever reason, all of the nuns just burst into flames. They all catch on fire. Whether this was completely by accident, whether it was done intentionally, is unknown as of yet. But essentially, she watched everyone she grew up with, minus Iris, die right in front of her eyes. And she kind of, any faith she had in this, you know, godly figure of the Fire Force world was just kind of completely burned away. And she basically became cold to the outside world and adopted this people are going to use me, so I'm just going to use them kind of mentality. And it's a really sad mentality, but I like it because it's understandable, because I feel like, because in her eyes, she saw all these people who dedicated themselves to this, holy teaching, and they should by all means be the people who are safe from spontaneously combusting, and then they weren't. So any faith she had in anything even remotely solid in the world was just completely thrown out the window. So she escapes, and she ends up becoming the leader of Company 5 in the Fire Force, which is a largely research-driven company. And they're kind of shady. They do some shady things to get their results. And she ends up butting heads with Company 8. And I'll go into, well, I guess I'll talk about it now. What kind of makes her character a little mixed in my mind, and it's kind of leads to a problem I have with the show in general, primarily with its protagonist, is, so she kind of starts off as this, in the beginning, she's kind of this antagonist character. But then, through just a series of events, Company 8, and Shinra in particular, comes up against her in a fight. And Shinra, through the power of determination, even though he should have been outskilled by her because she was clearly more powerful than him, especially at the time. We'll talk about that when I talk about Shinra's character. Shinra essentially just punches her in the face, and that, I guess, kind of wakes her up to what she's been doing, and she develops a crush on Shinra immediately after he punches her in the face. And, well, he punches her in the face, and then he says, "I'll be your hero." And for whatever reason, that gave her hard eyes and gave her a lady boner. And now she, well, like I said, now she has the hard eyes for him. And, I mean, to be fair, Shinra doesn't really have a harem yet. At least not, I wasn't really picking up on the harem vibe, which I'm grateful for. That's an anime trope that has happened one too many times in shonen animes. At least that the harem takes some time to form. And, at least. So, but yeah, so Shinra literally punches her in the face, and that makes her fall in love with him. Which, seeing the comments on that episode about that scene was quite humorous. But, so, I liked her backstory, but I mean, I still think she's a solid character, and she's still interesting. But just the fact that she got punched in the face, and that was enough to turn her, was just weird. It just came off as very weird. Very, like, it can only happen in anime. But, yeah, but overall, I do like her character. I really liked her backstory, and, like, yeah, it makes sense for her to act the way she did. She went through some fucked up shit, and I think most people would act the same way, too, if their faith was that shattered, which it was. Another character I really like is Lieutenant Hinawa. He is kind of like another big brotherly, but kind of more like a tsundere type big brother, where he's like, I'm not gonna let the fact that like everyone knows that he loves them, but he's really hard on them and still tough and cold. But he's got a good heart. He's also a great cook. Like he's like the cook for the he's like the primary cook for the Fire Force, which I really like, because he started off as like this lieutenant in like the actual military or whatever. And then eventually he like through some stuff happens. I'm not gonna go into his backstory, but he develops his pyrokinetic abilities that he is able to again control flame, but the way he uses it is with guns. So he's basically the gunslinger of the group, and he literally just uses a variety of guns. And since he's able to control like the flame that sparks the bullet, like the powder in the bullet to fire it, he's able to control that to control how powerful or how fast or slow the bullets can travel. So he can either, make it so that the bullet has the velocity and impact of a paintball ball, or he can make it have like the velocity of like a tank piercing round. Although to do that usually destroys the gun. So he actually has this. It's really cool. He actually has a gun that he trades the barrels on, because he puts so much power behind the slugs that he fires that it literally blows up the barrel. So he has to like trade up. So instead of like reloading like a normal gun, he has to reload the barrel and then put the bullet in. And it's pretty badass. That's a badass scene when he uses that thing. Although so is the end of the show, so I'm not going to explain how that happens and how they got there. But he's really cool. His power is just really cool, because it's like, you don't really see a ton of guns in anime. Usually it's like magic and swords people, wielding katanas or giant buster swords swinging around. You don't really see a ton of guns, especially not to this degree. So it's kind of entertaining, especially from my American brain. I do like me guns, yeah. But yeah, so I like him. I think he's a fun character. He's enjoyable, and his backstory isn't bad. It kind of it makes like the way he is, his backstory lends to that. So I guess now I'll talk about characters that I'm kind of mixed about. And there's really only one character that I'm truly mixed on, and that's Arthur. And I think that's kind of the entire point. He's supposed to be a character that you don't really know what his deal is, because his power, his pyrokinetic power is cool, but not super great. Not compared to a lot of the other ones, at least. Basically, he's able to like channel his flame into a sword, and he basically gets like this blue plasma sword, which is really cool, and it can pretty much cut through anything, because it's like literal plasma. Blue flame. But he's also like a big goof, and really stupid. He's really dumb. Like, there's literally a scene where he's fighting this guy, and he's like, why am I getting my ass kicked? And the guy's like, I'm gonna finish you off now. Haha, yada yada. You dumb bakana. And Arthur's like, wait a minute. I was just holding my sword in my wrong hand. Like, he was holding it in his left, and I think he's a righty. So he was getting his ass kicked because he forgot what hand was his dominant hand for a second and was using the wrong hand. And then he completely kicked the dude's ass because he had it in his proper hand. And I was like, what? Like, I mean, it was funny. It was funny, but it's like, he's kind of a hard character to get down if he's, like, just supposed to be there as a goof, or if he is supposed to be kind of serious. He's a little hard to measure. And I'm just kind of mixed because, like, some of the extents they go for him to be a goof is kind of just like, okay, alright. And then other ones are, like, legitimately funny, where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, come on now. Like, you know, it's kind of hard to explain. I don't dislike him. But I only like him at moments. Like, there's only, like, certain times when I like him. I definitely like him. I liked him as I began to like him more as the show went on. As the show progressed and he kind of became more powerful, and as he kind of began to refine his craft of being a plasma swordsman, I began to like him a bit more. Because he has this, like, hang-up where he believes he's a knight, and he named his plasma sword Excalibur. So, yeah, he's kind of a weirdo. He's kind of a weird fella. But I think I overall do like him. But the reason I'm just mixed is because, like, for, like, the first half of the show, I did not like him. He was just kind of annoying and just kind of, like, just a little off-putting. But I think he's kind of like Asta from Black Clover, just to bring, you know, more comparisons to various shonen animes. Asta's not a character I liked for a long time. It took me a while to start liking him, and I think Asta is, like, purposely designed that way, to be a character who you don't really like at first, and it's kind of annoying because he's always yelling, but then kind of grows on you. And I think it kind of, like, helps with, like, the immersion to the anime. But that's just my personal, like, observations. And I think Arthur is kind of similar. He grows on you. You don't really like him either. You love him at first or you don't. But regardless, he does kind of grow on you as the time goes on. Because he is a kind-hearted, lovable doof who is an idiot, but means well. So, I mean, I put him in the mixed category, but I do like him. I do like him overall. He just took a little while to grow on me. Now we'll talk about characters that, I guess I'll put her into the mixed category. Iris, the nun, who I talked about a little bit earlier, who has a relation to Hibana. Iris's character was just kind of mixed for me as well, because again, it really wasn't until, like, the last few episodes that I actually began to kind of like her character, because she just felt very non-existent. Like, her overall, she just didn't really feel like a character. She just felt like something that was there. She's used for a bit of fan service, because there's shower scenes in this show. And I'll talk about the fan service because I think it is worth bringing up in its own little section. I'll bring it up when I talk about the next batch of characters I'm going to talk about. But so Iris is in, she's in the shower scenes for some quick fan service. And there's a part where, like, Hibana, for whatever reason, decides to burn Iris's clothes off to where she's basically only wearing her bra and panties. And I was just like, I like this, but whoa. Like, wrong time, wrong place. Like, what the heck? It just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, that was kind of my thing. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I was just like, whoa. Surprise boner attack. Okay. And it was just kind of like, why was that necessary? Like, why did that have to happen? That didn't really make a ton of sense to me. And, like, yeah, her character just didn't really do anything. Because she isn't unpowered, so it's not like I'm expecting her to, pick up, like, a giant cross and beat people's heads in with a giant cross, flailing around through the sky. I wasn't expecting anything like that, but I don't know. Her character was just kind of odd. Like, it felt like it feels like there's more to her, but that didn't show in this first season. So I'm hoping she gets developed further, because she is, like, the main religious component to the Fire Force, because the world of Fire Force is a deeply religious one, the Holy Soul Temple, and all that jazz. So I look forward to seeing more from her, which is why I put her into the mixed category, because like she's super cute and she's like really kind, and the fan service of her was like nice, but she just didn't really feel like much of a character, which is a perfect segue into the characters that I did not like and characters that I did have a problem with. And number one, and I think that I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this because I think she's a candidate for best girl, I'm not sure, but Tamaki. Tamaki is a character I did not like. And, please don't leave a dislike. Please don't hate the video just yet. Allow me to explain. I don't hate her. I don't think she's a bad character. I just don't think she is a character. And allow me to explain. So, Tamaki is I think she's a rookie as well. And she is a third generation pyrokinetic. And her pyrokinetic ability allows her to get cat ears and like a cat tail. And she's able to, and like it increases like her agility and strength, so she's able to flip around and become a super acrobat for whatever reason. I don't really know if it's properly explained, but it's anime. It doesn't need a proper explanation, honestly. But so the thing that bothers me about her is that it feels like her entire character is just there to be fan service. Like at least Iris has a bit of a character and does other things than just. And wow, I just spit, and it went flying. Like, not like a big spit, just like a tiny little spit. But it got some good, it got a good trajectory. It landed pretty far away. Wow. So Iris, she at least, does other things. Like, it feels like she's not there purely to be a fan service character, even though there is some fan service done with her, with some shower scenes and the aforementioned clothes being burned. It feels like she's definitely going to play a bigger role because she is Fire Company 8's main connection to the religious themes of the world. Tamaki, on the other hand, literally feels like she's there just to be fan service. Because first off, I'll throw pictures of all the characters, and I'll throw a couple of pictures of Tamaki up to just kind of show what I'm talking about. Hopefully this video doesn't get taken down. I mean, it's anime. They never show actual nudity. They just get, very close with the partial. And she does get very close with the partial. Her default outfit is basically her wearing, baggy pants. Low wearing baggy pants. So you can see, you can see her panties. And then an open jacket with no shirt on, so you can see, her. She basically, Metal Gear Solid 5, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, Quiet. She basically is, wearing that outfit. In terms of, at least in terms of, her chest. She has, that weird Quiet level, bra going on, where that shit ain't working the way a bra should, let me tell you. You can see, it's not holding anything up. You can see everything through it. It's just there to cover the nips, and not much else. And that's her default outfit. And then, what's really the kicker, though, is that for whatever reason, she has this unnatural ability that she just happens to fall out of her clothes. She literally loses her clothes through, tripping and falling. And there's no explanation given for that. It's just a thing about her character. She's so quirky. Her clothes are gone, and it's what? If you, I don't know why. I did the motion of looking back and forth, looking side to side, even though there's no video of me doing this, so I don't know why I did that. But anyways, her character is just, her character feels like she's there purely to be fan service, which then makes her not really that much of a character. And that's kind of my problem with her, and that's kind of my big problem with Fire Force in general, is that a lot of the characters, they don't feel like characters. They feel like they're there to fill one role, one purpose. Usually, if they're female, it's a fan service purpose. And then that's it. And then they're just gone. Or they're not gone, but they just, that's all they do. And I don't know. I don't like that because, you know, as I said earlier, I really like shows that have deep characters, or at least characters that are very entertaining beyond just, you know, being entertaining from like a male pleasure standpoint of fan service. Because allow me to segue a little bit into my thoughts and opinions on fan service in anime. If done right, if done within a you know, not a too obscene amount, you know, not too much, fan service I don't think is bad. If it's done tactically, if it's done tastefully, or at the very least not done a ton. And, I mean, it's funny that I say this because the Monogatari series, you know, like Bakemonogatari, Nisemonogatari, that series is one of my favorite animes, and that show is well known for its fan service. But there's a lot of other stuff that accompanies the show beyond the fan service, so I'm able to put that aside because, like, overall, I don't like fan service. Like, if it's done tastefully enough, or, like, not done too much, or if it's, like, if it actually does have relevance to the plot. Like, for instance, Cowboy Bebop. Faye Valentine. Her character could be very viewed as just like a fan service character because, you know, she always wears skimpy, she wore skimpy clothing and revealing outfits. But that was actually a part of her character because she's supposed to kind of be this seductress who uses people to get what she wants. And it also, you know, is kind of like a thing about, like, it's also kind of a thing related to, like, her past trauma and whatnot. But, like, there's reasoning for Faye being dressed the way she is beyond just she's a hot anime babe for the men to think about late at night. With Fire Force, it feels like a lot of the characters, like, the fan service was just there to be fan service. And that kind of bugged me a bit. Because I don't like fan service very much, just for the fact of fan service, like, I don't, like, when I watch an anime, I want to watch the anime because I enjoy the characters, or the fight scenes, or, like, the plot. I don't want to be there to just ogle anime babes. If I want to do that, I watch this thing called pornography. And to be more specific, hentai. Like, for instance, when the Iris getting her clothes burned off, that gave me a mega boner because I'm an average ordinary dude. I don't know why anime girls are hot, they just are. Which is funny because, like, if you were to take an anime girl and transport them into the real world, they would be terrifying if they were not, like, adjusted at all to fit, like, actual human standards, I guess you could say. They would be scary with their giant eyes and, like, lack of nose and lips. Just saying. But, so, like, yeah, so, like, I'm watching Fire Force, and then that happens, and I'm like, well, great, now I'm all hot and horny. And it's like, well, I didn't want this. Like, I wanted to watch the show because of, like, the plot and the characters, not because of the anime chicks, you know? Not because of just hot anime girls wearing very skimpy clothing. Like I said, like I like to keep my food separated. I like to keep my porn as porn, and I like to keep my anime as anime. And if I want the bridge between the two, I watch hentai. Like, that's just how it is. I don't really want fan service in anime because now it's just like I'm just being distracted from, like, the actual, like, the things I actually came to the show for. And again, like, and what? Did they with fan service, did they expect me to just start, like, jacking off on my chair in the middle of the episode? Like, no. If I'm gonna jack off, I want to do it someplace private with my phone, you know? Not on my, you know, computer monitor watching anime. So, you know, that's kind of my thoughts on fan service. If done, if it has a purpose in the show for, as, like, a character thing or a plot device, I'm okay with it. But if it's just there just to be there, I'm not the biggest fan, because then it just kind of feels like sloppy writing that takes away from what could be good character development, which is my biggest problem with Tamaki. I just feel like she's there as just a fan service character, because she doesn't even really do anything that badass in the show. She kind of gets her ass kicked a lot. I mean, she kind of shines towards the end, but again, like, it just feels like her character is just there to be fan service, and I'm just like, come on. I want, like, at least slightly deeper characters, because if I want fan service, I'll watch porn. Like, I'll watch hentai. That's just how it is. That's just how I view it. So, yeah, Tamaki, I don't hate her, but I just don't like how she's not really a character. And I hope that makes sense. I hope that's fair. You know, I think that's a fair argument to make. Another character I didn't really like was Benimaru, or Benny. I didn't like him at all. I'll be perfectly honest. I did not like his character. I thought he was just kind of weird, and I did not really like that little arc where Company 8 is like in that weird town thing doing shit. I didn't like him. I get that he's supposed to be like this kind of stoic, cool badass, but I just couldn't really dig him. Like his specialty is that he has like 2 different pyrokinetic quirks. I don't know exactly what they are, but he basically rides around in these weird like mop-looking things. He's kind of weird. His whole character thing is that he's really strong and everyone respects him because he's really strong. But he's also he's like the leader of like I think Company 7, and Company 7 basically rules this like small portion of town. And basically he's the leader because he's like the most powerful one there. But he doesn't want to be the leader. But it's never really like fully explained why he's so against being a leader. So yeah, I don't know. His character was just kind of odd in a couple of ways, and I just didn't really dig him that much. I thought he was just kind of uninteresting. Maybe, but again, you know, like I'm trying to keep an open mind here. I'm hoping that these characters will be developed as the show and manga progresses. So we'll see what all happens here. But and then I guess we'll talk about the elephant in the room, the character that I probably liked the least. And it has to be Shinra, the main character. And again, please don't dislike the video. Please don't leave a bunch of hate comments. I'll explain why I have some problems with him. And I mean, I guess I wouldn't call him my least favorite character. That's a little overboard. But I think he's just a very weak main character because in a lot of ways it feels like he's too safe. Like the mangaka didn't take any chances with him. At least not yet. He's not really that great of a character in my mind. So I guess we'll talk about the things I do like about him, which will be minor spoilers. I'll throw up a spoiler warning. Minor spoilers about his backstory. Although it's pretty obvious from like episode 1 what everyone at least thinks of him. But basically, so minor spoiler. Basically, Shinra's pyrokinetic ability is called the Devil's Footprint. Basically, he has like these flames on his foot that can propel him at like jet speeds, like it can just make him move really fast and fly basically. And he uses it in a pretty, bunch of varying ways to varying uses. So it's not just for like flying only, but essentially, he awoke to his flame powers when he was a little kid. And his house burned down, and his mom and little brother were apparently killed due to that. So he's always had this reputation of being a family killer. And it was like, everyone knew like it was an accident, it wasn't on purpose, but people view him as a killer, and as he's like unstable because due to the traumatic event of him losing his family to a horrific fire, he developed a nervous quirk, which is something I actually really like. He developed a nervous quirk where when he's really stressed or scared or just nervous in general, he smiles like a really cocky shit-eating grin kind of smile. But no one understands that it's like a nervous tick, not a him being cocky thing. And like his whole character thing is like he's never been able to smile genuinely since that night, to add a little bit of emo anime edge to him. But so like I like his smile. I like how his smile is a nervous tick caused by just past trauma. I think that's interesting. But besides that, he felt too generic of like your typical shonen protagonist, where basically his entire shtick is just, I'm more determined and I have more willpower than you, and I have the power of friendship. So even though you are way more skilled than me, and way more powerful too, I'm still going to win. Like, he kind of suffers from that, and it just kind of disappoints me, because, I mean, that is kind of a problem I have with, like, Asta, you know, again, to compare it to other animes. Asta with Black Clover is, like, he kind of falls into the same track of, you know, the power of determination and will, you know, makes me save the day. But at the very least, like, you see Asta constantly training throughout the show to get stronger physically and mentally. So at least you see him putting in the hard work. Shinra just kind of has the ability to just kick into high gear and basically power up despite being very inexperienced. Like, he's a rookie. He is not an experienced fighter or an experienced fire force member. But because he is the main character and because he is determined, he's able to, like, power up and surpass his limits incredibly easily. And he doesn't really have to work super hard to do that either. And that just kind of bugs me about him. Like, it just feels like he just feels too stereotypical shonen anime protagonist of just being, like, the chosen one and being significantly more powerful than everyone else. Although he may not look like it at first, but he actually is the most powerful one there. And it's just kind of like, I've just seen it too many times, you know. Like I said, like, at least with Asta, you see him doing push-ups and shit in the background a lot of the time. Like, you see him constantly working towards his determination. With Shinra, it's just kind of like, okay, I'm more powerful now. And, again, minor spoiler, but with the Shinra versus Hibana fight, where Hibana falls in love with him, Hibana was doing, like, Hibana's power was kind of like, she's able to manipulate, like, people's body heat. Like, that's one of, like, her side quirks, I believe. Or she's able to, like, within, like, a certain radius, she's able to increase someone's, like, body temperature level to make it so that they can't move, or, like, they're very disoriented. And she was doing that to Shinra, like, at full power during their fight. And she was also, like, cascading burning, like, cherry blossom petals onto him, too, that were doing some damage. But he just shrugged it off and was like, nah, fam, I'm done with this shit. And just, like, became more powerful. Like, his determination to win, like, overcame this pretty significant, like, force that was being, you know, thrust upon him. And he just literally punched her in the face and won the fight. And it was just kind of, it didn't feel earned. It felt like he was just like, no, I'm gonna win now because I'm the main character. And then that's how he won. And it just didn't feel earned. It just felt like it was just like, oh, he's the main character, so he has to win. I would prefer a show where the main character gets their ass beat repeatedly and has to work really hard, and you see them have to work hard to actually get to a power level to where they can hold their own in a fight against more experienced, you know, and more capable fighters. That's the kind of show I like to see. Shinra doesn't really do that. He just kind of skips all those steps. And even in the last few episodes, he ends up, like, awakening to this really OP power. That's just kind of like, wow, okay. And, like, the person he's fighting against, like, I don't want to spoil it because the final few episodes are actually really good. And all, like, like, basically everything I've said doesn't exist in, like, episodes, like, 23 and 24. Those two episodes are, like, especially good with, like, everything. But the rest of the show, and then, like, the episode afterwards kind of falls back into the issues that I talk about, that I have talked about previously. But in those last few episodes, before, like, the final episode, Shinra is fighting this opponent, who I'm not going to spoil who. I'm not really going to go into many details. And the opponent isn't fighting to kill him, but the opponent is significantly more powerful than Shinra. His special ability is insanely OP. Insanely. And he's been training this, like, power and his skill set for essentially his entire life. So, you know, he's a very powerful and formidable foe. And Shinra, within the span of 20 minutes of fighting, ends up being on his level of power. And I hate that shit. And it happens so often in anime. But it always drives me nuts. Because it's like, it's been done a billion times. And, like, basically all this hard work that this other character, even though they're the antagonist, like all this hard work that the antagonist put in to gain their power and their skill set, basically just goes out the window because the main character has the power of friendship and is determined, has a stronger will than yours. And that just drives me nuts. I just really dislike that. And that's basically what Shinra does. This other character has been training literally his entire life to master his power and become a very competent fighter. And then Shinra's just like, lol, dude. I got my friends. My friends got my back. I know that they're cheering me on in the background, so I'm gonna kick your ass instead now. I'm gonna awaken to my own powerful power and kick your ass. And it just didn't feel earned. It just did not feel earned. Regardless, there was like few episodes where Shinra does this. Like their episodes are still really good and enjoyable to watch because again, that flawless animation. And it is in a very emotionally charged fight too, which does help things. And the animation and the voice actors definitely help sell it, but I don't know. It just a lot of Shinra's victories don't feel earned because it feels like he just awakens to a new power level and is able to beat people that he realistically should not be able to beat. So, because it's not like his flame power is that amazing. Like his flame is special, but it's not like at the very least, it's not like he's using it yet in an insanely special way. So that's kind of where my issue comes in with Shinra. He just feels very bland. He does not feel like a super unique character. And I'm really hoping that changes. To kind of start segueing into more positive things, I am very hopeful for the future of this show. I am. I mean, like I've said, I've never watched a Red Soul Eater, so I don't really know how this writer does. I don't really know how he works. I don't really know what his style is. So I don't really have anything to go off of. But I do think the show has potential to be super good. Because the world is really interesting. There are a lot of enjoyable characters. And even though Shinra, I feel like he's very basic and not very interesting and not very unique, he's not a bad character. He's just not his own character yet, I guess is the way you could put it. So that's kind of my main issue with Fire Force, is just a lot of the characters just don't feel like characters. And even the characters I do like, they're not very deep. They're not super interesting characters for the most part. At least not yet. You know, the manga's still going. The show is, season 2 is coming out soon. So I'm trying to keep an open mind here about where the show could go. I mean, if this was me like 3 or 4 years ago, I probably just would have been like, yeah, fuck this, I'm done. This show, like episode 5, I would have been like, this show is dumb. I'm done. I'm not gonna give it another go. But I wanted to stick it through because Fire Force is such a beloved show. I wanted to stick it through and see what it was all about. And I don't feel like I wasted my time watching it. There's only been one anime that I've watched that I felt like was a waste of time. And I'll probably have to make my own rambling anime review about it in the future. But I'm not going to say it here. I'll save that for the future. A little bit of tantalizing something to keep you on for future videos. But so I'm keeping an open mind about Fire Force, and I'm looking forward to season 2. And I think one of the reasons why I've drawn so many comparisons between Black Clover and Fire Force is because Shinra and Asta are the same voice actor. At least the Japanese is the same voice actor. But so I'm keeping an open mind because, like, again, with Black Clover, I did not like Black Clover for a while. I mean, when I got into Black Clover, they were on episode 70-something. So I had a lot of material to, take my time to catch up on. But it took me a while to actually get into Black Clover. And I'm glad I did because I really like it now. But, it took me a while. So I'm kind of trying to give Fire Force the same treatment. I'm trying to be fair to it. Because overall, my opinions of it, besides, like the animation, aren't really too high. It's not really a show I enjoyed too much. Besides just those entertaining fight scenes and gorgeous animation in general. But I'm hoping that it gets better. And and if you love Fire Force, if you disagree with absolutely everything I said and love Fire Force, no hate is intended here. This is not a video hating on Fire Force. you are more than free to love Fire Force for any reason you want. If you absolutely love fan service, I don't necessarily agree with you, but I don't think your opinion is invalid. I don't think it's bad to like fan service. So, you know, like, I don't, like, no hate is intended here. I'm not trying to shit on any Fire Force fans. I don't hate the show. The show just isn't quite for me yet. I like shows, I like strong characters in a lot of shows. And I think that's what I kind of need out of Fire Force. I need stronger characters to come out of this show. So, I hope I did a good job explaining, kind of rambling on about what I like and dislike about Fire Force, and I hope my complaints are valid. I mean, they are. I think they're valid complaints, and they are to me, so I'm not going to let anyone change my opinion. These are my valid complaints, my genuine complaints about Fire Force. I just feel like a lot of the characters are either too basic, or they're just not really characters. But I'm keeping an open mind that that could change in the future. And I think it could. I have a strong feeling that it can, and that it will. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, you know? Fire Force can end up being terrible, in my opinion. Or in everyone's opinion, honestly. It could end up, you know, going down a really bad road. Who knows? Anything could happen, honestly. But I'm not saying don't watch Fire Force. In fact, I recommend go and watch Fire Force. Give it a watch. It's on Crunchyroll and Funimation. I don't know who gets it first, or if they get it at the same time. I don't know what all the inner workings of those dealings are, but I watched it on Crunchyroll, so it's on Crunchyroll, and I'm fairly positive it's available on Funimation as well. Season 2 is coming out soon, as of this recording, and I'll probably be making another rambling anime review about Season 2 when that comes around and I watch all of it and collect my thoughts. And that video will either be very similar to this one, where basically nothing's changed, and you know, I gotta wait a bit longer for the characters to, I guess, evolve, kind of grow. Or, 1 second, scratching an itch. Oh, I'm like a dog sometimes, and I scratch I get itchy spots and I scratch them. Like, my whole mind just goes blank because it feels good. Scratching an itch feels so good. But anyways, so maybe my video might be very similar, or I'm just kind of like, it was just more of the same. Or maybe it'll be completely different, and this entire video will be, you know, completely pointless now. So, as of Fire Force Season 1, it left me with very mixed feelings. Like, again, the show is beautiful, great fight scenes, overall story isn't bad, and the world is interesting, the setting, but it's just the characters. The characters are really where the show kind of misses with me. But, yeah, so that's my thoughts. That's my ramble about Fire Force. Go watch it on Crunchyroll, on Funimation, wherever you gotta watch it. Give it a watch. It is 25 episodes, so it's a bit longer than some of the other shows I've covered so far. But, it's definitely worth a watch. At the very least, for the beautiful fight scenes. It is probably one of the most pretty animes I've ever seen. And I'm hoping Season 2 continues that. And yeah, I really do hope Season 2 completely, you know, invalidates everything I've said in this video. I'm looking forward to that. Or Season 2, Season 3. I'll give it until Season 3. If by Season 3, if all of my complaints are still present, or if, like, the story hasn't significantly improved, which will most likely have to be through the characters improving, then I will just make a video saying I don't like Fire Force. But as of now, I have mixed feelings. I don't dislike it. I also don't really like it that much either, though. I'm kind of neutral on it, but I'm keeping an open mind with hope that the show improves in the future. So, yeah, that's my thoughts, my rambling thoughts about Fire Force. Thank you guys for watching. Another long video, but I hope you guys enjoyed. And, I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe watching a brand new anime soon to do another ramble about. And we'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And again, no hate is intended towards any Fire Force fans. If this is your favorite show ever, hey, like, that's fair. That's valid. You are free to love whatever you want to love. Unless it's, like, highly illegal. In that case, don't love that. You might want to love something else then. But Yeah. Again, no hate is intended. I don't hate Fire Force. The show just kind of left me with mixed feelings. I kind of like it. I kind of don't like it. It's kind of on the fence. And I'm hoping season 2, takes me off that fence towards, hopefully towards the camp of it's a good show, not the camp of it's a bad show / just very basic show I've seen 1,000 times before. So, yeah. But anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with me through this entire ramble. It is now 4:22 a.m. I need to get a snack, and I need to get to sleep, and I'll probably sleep until like 1 p.m. today. But hey, anime reviews are always best at 3 in the morning, huh? But yeah, anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. Again, no hate is intended towards Fire Force. I'm looking forward to season 2. I'm looking forward to seeing characters evolve and the story progress. And I'm looking forward to seeing more beautiful animation. And I'll see you guys all there. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you in the next video of whatever I make. Bye-bye.